Good evening, everybody, and welcome to ADCI Lockdown Conversations, Episode 3. We'd like to welcome everybody onto our live broadcast tonight. I want to say hello to everyone that's joining us near and far. Thank you to everyone that joined us last week. Great success and great feedback from our conversations with Irene Kelleher. So the same as last week, if you can comment what festival you're from, what group you're from, where in Ireland you're watching it, what you're looking forward to for the next few weeks that we've left in lockdown, and just throw a wee word in the comments there for us, and we'll get back to them after the broadcast. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to welcome a man all the way from Ballyshannon in County Donegal, former ADCI chairman and current vice president of the ADCI, and also festival director of Ballyshannon Drama Festival. John Travers, you're very welcome to our conversations.
Thanks, Paddy, and greetings to everybody all over the country, especially to the Cavan people. And I'd like to give a special shout out to my cousins in Virginia, the O'Connells, Pat and Eileen and Connell, and a special shout out to Rory, the big man in the drama in Virginia.
John, it's great to have you on. Ballyshannon, an extremely cultural town over the years, one of Ireland's oldest towns. But how did you become involved in the amateur drama in Ballyshannon?
Well, as you said, it's a very old town, and while it has declined commercially, it still continues to be a great place to live. It's basically a town of festivals. You have the Musical Society, the Drama Festival, the Michael O'Cleary Four Masters Festival, the Rory Gallagher Festival, the Folk Festival, the Carnival, the Allingham Festival, Panto. So it's a great town of culture. And from school days, I remember right back to Sean McGinley's mother, Margaret McGinley, drama was always part of the schools and a means of educating kids. And getting on stage was no big deal for people. So it was second nature to everybody to become involved. How I became involved, my father was from a very small town, Ballintra, about 6 miles north of Ballyshannon, and he was a great organizer. He was involved in drama and the race. He was secretary of the races in Ballintra, and he was involved in bringing the lights to Ballintra and the first petrol pumps. He moved to Ballyshannon and became involved in the drama festival. So he was a founder member of the festival in Ballyshannon, which was one of the founder festivals in 1952. So he became chairman of the ADCI in 1967 and 68. So I was very proud to become the first father and son to hold that office. My mother was Kitty O'Connell from Atlee in Roscommon, was very close to Athlone, and she was, like in many cases, she was the woman behind every successful man, and she did a lot of the secretarial work in the GA and the drama, and she used to read every play that was ever entered in the festival, and she attended every festival from 1952 until probably about 2006. So I suppose that's where my inspiration came. I remember as far back as 1961 when Ballyshannon won the Esso Trophy in Athlone with Old Road, and I remember the homecoming. It was before Donegal ever got near Sam Maguire, but it was the Esso Trophy was the equivalent of the Sam Maguire at that stage. And I remember the homecoming on the Monday night, where they toured the town to hundreds and hundreds of people, and that was probably my first memory. But in drama festivals at that time, I remember you used to have a 3-act play followed by a 1-act play, and then at weekends you had an Irish drama competition. So it was football and drama from you were 9 or 10 years of age, and I went off to UCD, and when I came back in '72 and started teaching in Ballyshannon, I became involved in the festival, and then later on became festival director and secretary, and became involved in a little bit of acting and set construction and backstage work.
Yeah, so there's a massive history of drama in Ballyshannon, going back to years. Can you tell us a wee bit about that?
Well, it goes back probably to the end of the 19th century. The editor of the owner and founder of the local newspaper at the time, the Donegal Vindicator, he set up a group called the Ballyshannon Amateur Dramatic Club. And the stage plays like Aaron a Pogue and the Colleen Bawn. And in 1914, he had a production of Chakran. And in that play, there was one of the actors was Patrick Crowell. Now, he was the father of Patsy Crowell, who later on became a very successful director with the Premier Players in Ballyshannon, a chairman of the ADCI, and later a very distinguished adjudicator. But at the same time as the festival was established, you had you had loads of groups in the area. You had Legany and Coolmore and Snowla, Bundoran, Ballantrae. There was also a group called in Corley, which is right on the border of called the Border Players, and they had an actor with them at the time called Thomas McAnna.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he was a customs man at the time in Ballyshannon. He went on to become the artistic director in the Abbey and a very well-known director, Tony nominee for the Borsal Boy. So there was that tradition in Ballyshannon. We had success, as in the old road, and we had success with spreading the news. A lot of the people involved in the festival in the 60s were people who came to the town because they were involved in the construction of what we call the cementation, the power stations at the Catleys Falls and Cliff. So there was an influx of people, and a lot of them were carpenters and electricians and engineers, and became involved in the drama festival and the musical society and the GA. So there were a huge boost. Unfortunately, in the 60s, when the power station was completed and the workers began to drift off again, we stopped competing on the festival circuit. Patsy Crowell became an adjudicator. He still produced plays for local consumption with the drama club at the time, and we didn't take part in the festival circuit again until we won the confined one act in the year 2000 with the extraordinary revelations of Orca the Goldfish, and then we won the confined final in 2011 with the Steel Magnolias, and then we went open, and we have qualified 4 times with Old Times, the Gingerbread Lady, God of Carnage, and the Importance of Being Nurse for Athlone. So that's a pocket history. What caused
the resurgence, John, to get it up and going and get back out in the circuit, or was there a main driver behind that? And
well, I think the resurgence probably was the drama club amalgamated with the drama festival, and they created a new body called the Drama Society. And as well as that, you had the town council bought the Abbey Cinema, which was in private ownership, and there was a trust set up called the Abbey Centre Trust, which existed for 20 years. I was involved myself, and then after that, it was succeeded by a management committee that's currently in charge. And we were successful in doing a fantastic renovation job on the Abbey Centre, and it's sort of a multi-purpose, multifunctional centre, cinema spaces, dance studios, theatre, rehearsal rooms. We have 3 theatres basically, and it's a place where you have bingo as well. It's a building that people are happy to go into, and they have sort of ownership of it. So that made a big difference. Then we started to do plays. 1996 we did The Girls in the Big Picture, Mary Jones, and we have done about 45 productions in the last 25 years. And we tried to have cast that were as large as possible. Ones like Our Town, which I think is 25 or 30 people in it.
Mm-hmm.
And we did another piece called Mixed Doubles, which was 30 monologues and duologues and so on, to bring in as many people as possible. So we've had over 100 people with 8 or 9 different directors over the years. So we've broadened our base. When we did Steel Magnolias, people suggested we do the festival circuit, and I said no, you couldn't do the festival circuit and run a festival. And I was sort of against the idea originally, but I was convinced, yeah, we should do it, and it was the best move we ever made, because we now can be in the festival circuit with 20 plus people away and another 20 people at home running the festival. So you have a much broader base, and consequently it left us in a position that we've run 2 successful one-act finals, and we were looking forward to hosting the confined finals this year. So there's been a great resurgence and a lot of people involved, and I suppose a variety of factors, but it's been successful for us.
Great. Ballyshannon Festival was one of the founding members of the ADCI. What do you think, John? Why is the festival circuit, or how has the festival circuit stood the test of time? I'm only a late comer to the table. I only became aware of the festival circuit in mid-80s when Father Patsy Young started the festival in Shercock, and that was the first we ever heard of drama festivals. And of course he started selling players and they were going to festivals, but the festival circuit is as strong now, John. Well, I know this year's quite different, but it's as strong now as it was. What's testament to that? Or?
Well, I think that, you see, originally when it started off, there was huge numbers of drama groups in the country. There was nearly one in every parish. There was, there was a few early festivals before the ADCI circuit started. You had Tubber Curry, and you had Cavan, that go back to the mid 40s. So you had a sort of an appetite for drama, and you had knowledgeable audiences in rural areas and small towns. And well, we did Old Times a few years ago by Harold Pinter, and we were doing a wee bit of research on Harold Pinter, and we discovered that Harold Pinter had acted on the Abbey Centre stage in 1951, and that you had the fit-up groups. You remember the film that was made a few years ago, Playboys in Red Hills in the cabin.
Yeah.
And the fit-up groups used to travel, and we found out that the Anu McMaster with Harold Pinter, they were on a tour of Ireland in the summer of 51, and they were in Ballyshannon for 7 nights. And they were also in Mullingar, Sligo, Skibbereen, Athlone, Ballina, Tralee, Dundalk. And they were in town for a week, and they did 8 performances, the same group of players. The Merchant of Venice, Taming of the Shrew, Lady Windermere's Fan, Hamlet, An Ideal Husband. So you see the range of stuff that people were seeing at that time in small towns around the country. So you had audience there, you had groups there, so you had an interest in drama. I think another strength of it was a 32 county circuit. You had festivals north and south. You had the close cooperation between the Amateur Drama Council and the Association of Ulster Drama Festivals. And over the years, you had groups from the north going south and groups from the south going north. And right throughout the Troubles, you had no, it must have been scary times crossing the border, driving after a production, driving home at 2 or 3 in the morning with a van load of all sorts of stuff, And we were lucky we escaped that time. Another factor is, I think, that the drama was pitched at an audience. There was a balance between the idea of theatre and dressing up and ceremonial, but yet it was kept accessible to people. So your audiences at festivals and the groups involved, as you know yourself, a great cross section of communities. And it wasn't regarded as something that was highfalutin, and you know, it's not something that ordinary people would go to. They were used to going to plays, and everybody went, and everybody became involved in them. That was a huge strength. I suppose the other thing about it, it was fun. You know, the obviously nowadays, even with the breathalyzer, you can't stay up as late at night, and the festival clubs aren't. Maybe they're restricted more to weekends and so on. But you had fantastic fun, great friendships made on the festival circuit, and great stories told. You know, that I remember Tommy McCardle telling a story about the famous Pete Ward, you know, and Travers and Ballyshannon at about 2 o'clock in the morning. They had a minibus down and a few cars, and Pete wanted to stay in, and Tommy wanted to go home. So Tommy had a car, so he says, "Look, I leave the car and he'll go home on the bus," you know. So some while later, Pete went out to get into the car, but it was one of these French cars, like a Renault with hand gear changes, and he couldn't get the car into gear. So a guard came up the street and said, "Hello, where are you going?" Monaghan. What's the problem? I can't get this car into gear. So anyway, he showed him how to put it into gear, and he says, "Okay, good luck. I wish you luck." And a similar story from Mary McDermott Rowe leaving Dorrigan's very late at night, and there was a checkpoint at the bridge, and there was a few in the car. So she said to them, "The car, keep quiet now and don't say anything." So guard stopped. "Hello, where are you coming from?" "The Drama Festival." "Where are you going?" "To Sligo." I said, "Well, maybe the next time you come down, just remember to go around the roundabout the right way." Right. So like the crack that you have, and it's one of the successes now of the one act, where you have, you know, a couple of hundred people there for the weekend to see all the productions. The people who are involved are seeing their peers and appreciating the work that other people are doing, and they can relax and enjoy all the festival and all the fringe activities over the weekend. And it's something that I think that we should be, you know, as an introduction to amateur drama and to festivals, trying to encourage people to take part in the one act. It's probably less expensive, less time consuming, but very enjoyable.
Yeah, and a fantastic event with the finals and all, as you say. John, all them years involved in the festival and involved in the group, and you must have some fantastic memories from amateur drama, or nights of the festival in Ballyshannon. And
well, from the early days, the big groups that I remember was Sligo, Lifford, Tuam, Carrigallen, Derry, Ballantrae, Charlestown, and both that was in our area of the country. And the great directors like Liam McKinney, Father P.V. O'Brien, Father Patsy Young, Bishop Edward Daly, Paddy Henry, and you know, they were fantastic characters. Didn't like to lose by any means, you know.
Well, there's some of them still around, John. Don't worry about that.
But well, I think, you know, in drama, you know, if you're involved in a circuit and you have a group coming to you, you like to see them doing well. But if you're competing, not too well, you know. But I think we appreciate everybody else's work. But something that you know, I feel strongly about is the huge contribution that in the early days that priests made and clergymen made to amateur drama. Like, you know yourself, Father Patsy Young, everywhere he went, he started a drama group.
Yeah. And
they're still there, you know. And that's something that sometimes is forgotten about. Bishop Daly, first he was from a Blake man, Edward Daly. He came to the festival originally with Castlederg, where he was stationed first, and then moved to Derry, and he brought the 71 players for years. Very, very successful in the festival. So those major characters I remember. And one of the things that has occurred since is there's a lot of young, newer directors and a huge number of very successful female directors that are bringing memorable productions, you know, Lorraine Duggan and Emma Jane Nulty, Radine Dunn, Sally Stevens, Maura Clancy, Carol Stewart, Gerard Canning, Myra Maguire, Anne McHugh, Jenny D. Lucas, Mary Finn, like that's something that very often criticism at the present time with the role of women, but certainly that's something that amateur drama can't be accused of. Specific productions, I don't know if you remember Metamorphosis. It was 1996, I think it was, and I got a phone call probably in nearly February, and our festival was always on the 17th of March that week, from the college players in Limerick. Could they get into the festival? And I said, you're just in the right place at the right time. A group had pulled out. I had a Monday night free, and I said to them, and I didn't expect to agree, could you come on a Monday night for Limerick? And they said yes. So they got into Ballyshannon, and they got into one other festival, and they won the two, and won the All Ireland, and won all around them. And it was a fantastic production. They arrived on the night before, and they started the set at midnight. So once the group on the Sunday night had cleared, they started. It was a very intricate set with hundreds of lighting cues and so on. And anybody around Ballyshannon would certainly remember that production. Duff's Disciples from the McCardles, 1973, way ahead of its time, you know, on sort of group therapy in an institution to wean paramilitaries off violence. And they came with a set with a platform leading from the stage out to right through the audience, out to a window. And a lot of the action was taking place outside the theatre. And they were running down the ramp to the window, climbing up to the window and seeing what was going on in the outside world. You know, that sort of theatre that was completely new to us, but it was anything that the McCardles did was memorable. A particular scene from a very successful production by Carrie Gallant, The Honey Spike, where the first time sort of we saw the use of the psych wall, and they had the journey back to the spike with the horse and trap and the clouds behind and so on, and the sound effects, and a magic moment. And it probably now wouldn't surprise anybody, but at that time it did. Lifford's translations, which was for me to a certain extent the definitive translations, and they went to Dublin, and they went to the Abbey at the time, and they were so successful in the Abbey. I think they went back to the Gaiety for a week in the summertime. It was a great production. In more modern times, The Devil's Cayley, obviously, it was hugely enjoyable. The 39 Steps from Letterkenny, Angels in America, the set that they carried from Silk and Thomas, and then I suppose probably up there as Tommy McCardle or Tommy Doherty said at the time, the History Boys from Silk and Thomas. That
fantastic production.
He had seen the West End production of it, and he says the better one was Silk and Thomas. And you know, I watched the film version, James Corden was in it, and you know, the boys compared equally with them, you know. And obviously in recent times, like the prosperous productions, Sylvie and Enemy of the People, and One Man, Two Governors. A great thing too about what you see in festivals now is a lot of the new plays, original plays by members of the group. You had John McDwyer and lovely Leitrim and You'll Never Walk Alone. And in more recent times, Kieran Kelly, who was last year, he was out from Letterkenny with Dramateurs and Beneath an Irish Sky. And Robert Massey with Deadline. I thought that was a fantastic set, then the Victor's Dome, and of course the one I remember, Dig. Seamus O'Rourke. He had several of them. So to see somebody writing a play from a group and performing it and bringing it to All Ireland level is a great vindication of the whole drama. Now, Dig to me was a play that I used to be a tutor in child protection courses with the GA, and I used to use that. You know, children with very successful parents have a hard act to follow, and very often you know, in GA clubs, if your father was a great cupper and you
You
weren't,
should be one too. Yeah.
you're not half the man your father was.
Yeah,
Jesus, I remember your father, and he could do
yeah,
this, that, and the other. And the pressure, did just, you know, that was lying in it. Did they just win? Or how much they just lose by, you know? And you know, there was one scene where he kisses his father at night, and the father gives him the slap, and he says, "Look, at time you toughened up, and none of this out of kissing stuff. You have to hit him hard," sort of thing. And the pressure, I suppose, you can apply it to sport, but in all aspects of life, of living up to the expectations that people have of you. And I thought that was a fantastic play. I love playing with a good set.
Well, you're a set man, so of course,
And to see, I remember I took a photograph of the set for the gingerbread lady that we were going to Athlone, and we had loaded at the Abbey and were ready to move to Athlone. And when you arrive at a venue and people look at the set being unloaded, it looks like a skip.
Honest to God,
the buzz that you get, you see in a theatre, when you have a big crew erecting a set, and then you put lights on it at night, and then you put a play on it. It's absolute magic. You know, see that transformation, and then you proceed, of course, to take it down and load it in the van on the way again. But I particularly enjoy that aspect of it, and I enjoy. We were fortunate enough; we have a crowd of pensioners, retired guards and teachers, and so on in our set crew, and you look forward to meeting at 9:30 in the morning or whatever, getting in the van and heading off, arriving, getting the sandwiches and a cup of tea and building the set and the crack and the slagging that goes on. That to me, you know, is very important for a group. Seamus said, I think, in the first week, he enjoyed putting up the set. Because he then owned it. He lived in it. And I think you see a lot of the very successful groups, they have very successful teams, crews.
Absolutely,
And you see that you can think of Silk and Thomas arriving with the 3 or 4 lorry loads. Every one of them, Conor O'Connell leaving the theatre at 7 o'clock or something, and then he's back on stage and then taking down the set. Absolutely. And Corn Miller great at that as well, and Tubber Curry. And they actually are great then because you have a big crew, and then afterwards you can guarantee a good night in the festival club. You know,
massive dedication too from all them people. You know, John, you were supposed to hold the confined finals in Ballyshannon, and then COVID actually put a stop to all that. Where are we now, huh?
Well, we were really looking forward to the confined finals. We're looking forward to a great year in Ballyshannon, and the only organisation that got away was the musical society did a marvellous production of Ulster Cup in February, and then we had a meeting in early March, and we were making our final arrangements. Everything was in place. Festival club. We had our trophies designed by local craftsmen, ready to go. We had workshops, everything ready to go, and then the club was pulled. I suppose the fact that we have the finals in 2022, which seems a long way away, but
I know, yeah.
In the scale of things, when you're planning an All-Ireland final or any festival, you know, it starts for an ordinary festival 6 months in advance, but for an All-Ireland final a year and a half in advance. So we have that to look forward to. But it was a huge, you know, loss financially to not so much the confined finals for the committee, but for the town, and to have lost all of the other festivals, because I would say of the businesses in Ballyshannon, the pubs and restaurants and so on, you know, those festivals bring in about 50% of the income.
Yearly income,
So a lot of your pubs, restaurants, hotels, they have lost out very badly, and we badly need to get back to some sort of normality.
Yeah, So the plans are on hold, and we're ready to hit the ground running as soon as the ball goes up, if it does go up.
Well, I'm sure it will. Even though there's a certain, we have to wait and see how the vaccinations work. But I'm sure by the middle of next year, things should be a little bit clearer.
Yeah, yeah. John, you're involved in the ADCI the same as myself. We've had copious amounts of meetings on Zoom. Of course, that's the new way forward. Zoom meetings. Post COVID, we had plans, or post lockdown we had plans. Do you want to go through a wee bit of maybe what our alternative plans are for the ADCI?
As you say, we were very busy on the Zoom and had a number of meetings, and we had plans in place for an alternative competition for next year, which would involve the usual open and confined sections and the usual awards of Best Actor and Best Actress and Director and Set. But the difference was that the adjudicator was going to move and adjudicate on the play in the group's own venue, or the nearest suitable venue, and then at the end of the competition, they would make up their minds about what was the best production they have seen, and it would have involved a minimum of travelling for only one person, or two or three, depending on the numbers that enter the competition. There wouldn't be much travel involved, and the risks would have been much lower. But unfortunately, the fact that when we moved to level 5, it meant that we had to put that on hold, and we'd have to revisit it again after December and decide if and when we actually can go ahead with that competition.
Yeah, it's also if this competition goes ahead, John, that you're talking about, it would be a massive stepping stone for maybe some confined groups out there, or open groups that haven't been on the circuit, or that have never stepped out on the circuit. This would be a great introduction, wouldn't it, to them? This could be a great year for them to introduce themselves to the running of the circuit and how it might go.
Yeah, I suppose for groups, there's a lot of the difficulty of getting a set transported and a crew, and I suppose the finances involved. It may be daunting for some people, but this would have been cheaper, easier on manpower and so on. And if a group hadn't been on the circuit, it would have been a means of maybe introducing them to what the circuit is about, and maybe decide that they would to venture on that. You have something like that already in the Connacht Cup in the Connacht region, where this year I think they had about 7 groups it's 4 groups that weren't on the circuit. And I think that all of the provinces need to look at that, because there's something like 700 drama groups in Ireland, but there's only 60 or 70 of them on the festival circuit. I think there's scope to try to push that number up by, in the provinces, organising the travelling adjudicator to reach out to groups that haven't been on the circuit, and maybe encourage them, or individuals in those groups that would like to dip their toes in a festival production. And I think that's something that we should be doing.
Yeah, we also, the ADCI writing competition, ADCI DLI writing competition is in process this year, and I know the judges are working very hard on them there at the minute in the judging situation, but I think they have been a great entry towards that this year.
Well, it was Walker Uritz's idea originally, and he's been driving it, and this year the adjudicators are from the DLI and McAterian, and from the ADCI Tricia Keane, and there was 58 entries. Now that is way up on previous years, and I suppose, you know, Churchill said never waste a good crisis, you know, and that people get inventive, and they get people at time. Charlie McGettigan said, I don't know many songs she's written since the lockdown, you know. Yeah. So the number of productions, and I believe the standard was extremely high, and they're now working on a format for the announcing of the results. And I think they're working on the idea of putting the information out there to groups, you know, the way you can go and look at a catalogue of plays, and that these plays will be actually catalogued, so you can know basically the storyline and the number of characters, male and female, in it, so that actually that new work that's out there, it may actually have the advantage that these writers might be less precious about performing rights. So if you have to do a Zoom production or a rehearsed reading of it, if you know, the established writers, if you go to Samuel French or whatever, to get the rights to actually do a Zoom production of a play would be very difficult. But for new plays, it might be a forum whereby the writer gets a bit of exposure, and it solves the problem in the present time of actually doing productions in front of an audience. The audience may be the virtual audience. Yeah,
so it's fantastic. We look forward to them results coming out, and to how the adjudicators done. So John, I suppose just to thank you very much for coming on with us tonight for our conversations. I know there's loads of people out there wanting to know, because we have a Cavan man and a Donegal man on a Zoom call, who's going to win on Sunday. So I'll give you the last word on that.
Well, if you want a word, I think that it's not a foregone conclusion, and that Donegal learned a lesson from Kerry's loss to Cork, and every game has to be taken on its merits. And we remember having a lucky escape with Cavan way back in, I think it was 91 or 92. So we're not taking anything for granted. And may the best team win. And I hope it's a good day and the conditions are good and it's the best team wins, which probably is Donegal, but I wouldn't count my chickens.
I'll allow you that one. Look, John, thank you very much for joining us tonight on ADCI Lockdown Conversations. Just before we go, next week we're back with episode 4, and we have a couple on next week. We have TJ and Laureline Duggan from Prosperous Dramatic Society to join us for the conversations next week. So we're looking really forward to that. Sorry, John, you want back in there?
Just one, I'll be killed if I don't. A lot of groups are doing the Zooms, like Moat and Conor O'Connell is doing Zoom productions, and a local group in Fermanagh are taking part in the virtual festival in the Ardo, and it's from Derry Lynn, and they've been on the revived over the last couple of years. So they're doing a series of monologues and duologues in the Ardo, from the Ardo one on the 27th and 28th of November. So give them your support.
That would be something to log on to, and as John said, they're Moat Club Theatre in Naas. They have some new episodes of their MOVID, I think they call it. So if you go and log on to their Facebook page, you'll see all that in there. Thank you, folks, for everyone that joined us tonight from episode 3 of Lockdown Conversations. We say good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.